Hello, and you're all very welcome along to the latest Champ.ie podcast, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse, EJ Menswear and Shamrock Thoroughbreds.
Lossymouth slowly coming through, takes it up now as they approach the last. Lossymouth at the last, got over it well, landed with 2 lengths, make it 3, tell me something girl, Hispanic Moon behind her, but in the closing stages, a second Festival victory. Lossymouth and Poltown end have won the Close Brothers. Second Nergamine, who's cantering to victory as he comes to the last. He's up and over safely, 6 lengths clear. Captain Guinness in second, Editor Duchet in third, Grenadine and Edwardstowe just getting over the final fence. Nothing was a match today for Energamine. He's absolutely bolted up.
If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, as it helps to get horse racing content out there to the wider audience. Barry and Co look forward to discussing your latest hashtag Cheltenham Ante-Post selections in the comment section below. We are on the road to Cheltenham again.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
Yes, we're on the road to Cheltenham again. Episode number 8 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. This time the turn of Daryl Jacob, of course, Grand National winning jockey and a 31-time Grade 1 winner, Daryl, in the saddle. How's life in retirement?
Good evening. Thanks for having me on. That was some introduction. That was. I enjoyed all of that, so I did. But very busy at the moment, which is great. And I've been around to see an awful lot of people and been in plenty of meetings. So I've been kept plenty busy, and also Simon and Isaac's horses. They're keeping me on my toes as well. So it's been a busy period, a busy month, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I am.
And Daryl, obviously a Wexford native. It was good that you got home to see, I suppose, family at the weekend. Dublin Racing Festival, though, it was what it was all about. On a weekend that, I suppose, Stateman won his third Irish champion hurdle, Galloping the Champ, of course, making it number 3 in the Irish Gold Cup. And I believe you won the race back in the day on the Listener.
But we're going back a long time now, aren't we? Yeah, that was my first Grade 1 back in Ireland, first Grade 1 ever, and that was a magic day for the boss, Robert and Sally Ulner. I was only a claimer at the time, and to put me up on a horse of that caliber was unbelievable. And it was a very, very special day. And funny enough, I've been watching a few replays, and I'm glad to say I got a little bit stronger in the saddle as my career went on. So I did. I definitely wasn't the strongest back then, so I wasn't.
I muted myself, Darren. I said the Listener at Leopardstown, that was your first Grade 1. And of course, Imperial Pass, we saw him at the weekend. I suppose first reaction on Imperial Pass, his run. He gave you your last Grade 1 winner at, of course, Limerick at Christmas.
Yeah, and he was very, very good at Limerick. So he travelled around there really comfortably at Limerick. And he put the race to bed very, very quickly with me at Limerick. Look, and I'm not going to lie, I was disappointed with him the weekend. I actually thought I thought the way the race was going to be run, I was looking at the form and looking at the pace angle and stuff like that. And I generally believed Imperial Pass would beat Ballyburn after his run at Kempton. I thought he still had a little bit to prove, and Imperial Pass has been there, done that, bought the t-shirt in open company as a hurdler. And Ballyburn, I suppose, was coming out of that sort of novice hurdle division and coming into novice chasing. I still thought he had a little bit he had to improve on ratings, not on ratings, but just to go and prove it over fences. And look at him. I don't think Imperial Pass, he turned up, he looked like halfway down the back straight that JJ Slevin was going to pull him up, and then we kind of got a glimmer of hope after jumping the second last turn into the home straight and sort of flattened out. But for sure, we definitely haven't seen the real Imperial Pass. And we're looking forward to him hopefully coming back and more in the springtime now with a little bit of sun on his back, a little bit better ground. I think it'll probably suit the horse a little bit better.
And we will touch upon El Fabiolo, his obviously short run, because he came down quite early, but we'll touch upon him, I suppose, maybe a little bit later in the show. But here's the agenda, Daryl, as we so always do. I suppose we'll do a quick fire round, and we might touch on some of those Cheltenham Festival successes from yourself back in your career in the saddle. And I suppose star ratings, we'll look back, we'll do a proper review on the Dublin Racing Festival, a tracker horse, some information on some Cheltenham preview nights as well coming up. We'll take a look at the big race this week, the Mares Novice. I have a couple of questions for you as well, Daryl, and then an Ante-Post selection from both of us. And of course, the show proudly in association with, of course, Gowran Park, the premier racecourse in the southeast of Ireland. Don't forget, of course, Red Mills Day upcoming at Gowran Park on Saturday, the 15th of February. And Boylesports are betting partner EJ Menswear up in Sligo and Shamrock Thoroughbreds. Amanda can do absolutely no wrong at the moment at Dundalk every single Friday night. Stephen Torn, I do believe he's in the top 3 for trainers at Dundalk on Friday nights since the turn of the year. So, Daryl, first section of the show, as we so always do, I've given you 3 performances to star rate, and I've star rated 3 myself. So the 3 that you're going to take a look at, and you have star rated them, the top 3 here. So Copic de Boer, Majborough, and Hello Neighbour. Kick us off, I suppose, Willie Mullins. Let's talk about it. He's probably ended all discussion in terms of the novice races for the Cheltenham Festival, thanks to Copex de Boer and Final Demand. Both were absolutely brilliant. And Copex de Boer, 5-star rating. Thoughts?
I have to give this lad a 5-star rating purely for the fact that he went around Leopardstown the other day. And the great thing about him is I still believe that there's an awful lot more to come from this horse. I still thought the horse was still very, very green, still very babyish. He was very keen with Paul the whole way. And they were travelling around Leopardstown on that softer ground. They were going no less than 30 mile an hour the whole way around there. And Paul still couldn't put his hands down on his withers really till after the third last flight of hurdles. You could see him the whole way down the back straight when they had the side on. He was still wanting to go with Paul. He was still taking a tug, and he was sort of leaning into Carafon, which is Simon and Isaac's horses. So I still think mentally, there's an awful lot more to come from him. And the way he just powered up the home straight, you see where I rate Carafon. I thought he was, I think he's a really well handicapped horse. I like the horse, and where he finished, I know he fell out of the screen, but that horse, Copac de Boers, he really, really did put him to bed very, very easily. And I think this horse is a hugely, hugely exciting horse that, you know, the sky's the limit with him.
6-4 with Boylesports for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. I have to say I was quite happy because obviously we put Final Demand into the team sheet last week at 12-1. We'll come to him in a couple of moments' time. But Arkle Chase, I know it's a long way down the line, 2026, but the way this horse, you know, got us jumping together, Daryl, and the way he was pinging hurdles, I'm talking about Copex de Boer here, he is not short. He's plenty of pace. And could you need a fence maybe next season to settle him down even?
I think you will see the best of this horse when he does jump a fence. I think it'll make him back off a little bit more. But just the way the speed, he still flies through the air. It's he can get up when Paul wanted him to get up. I think it was the 4th last when Paul looked for a big jump. And even when he went down to the first hurdle, you know, there was 6 of them set off in a line. They were keen enough going down over the first hurdle. And Paul gave him a squeeze at the first hurdle. And just the way he got up and got over him was very, very impressive. So, you know, chasing's not going to be a problem. But actually, he fiddled his hurdles really well as well. So for a horse that's a big, powerful, strong horse, he can do anything. And I thought he was very, very clever. 2 out when the horse went to run out on the side of him. Paul had to change him in at the last second. And he still went down there and he showed a big, big jump at the second last as well. Look, my one worry would be for him, I suppose, going forward, maybe potentially, not that the ground is ever going to be too quick, but he does have a high knee action. And I think he's definitely going to be a horse that's definitely better suited. I think he can power through the softer ground. So I think if I was going forward, I would be mindful of it, but I don't think it'd stop him. But I just think the horse that's in it, that he's a big, strong, powerful horse. I think owners and Paul and Willie would be quite keen to keep him to the softer side of the going anyway. So that would be my only sort of negative, I suppose, but it's not a negative as going to the Cheltenham Festival.
Of the 2 novices, because I'm going to talk about Final Demand here quickly, but of the 2, which were you more impressed with?
To be fair, I love both of them. Final Demand was a horse that I was down at Limerick the day that he won. And again, he done an awful lot wrong, Final Demand, down there with that day with Danny Mullins. He was very, very keen. With Danny, he was very fresh. And again, they went a real good, solid gallop down there at Limerick that day. But what I liked about him down at Limerick that day is, even though he was keen and fresh, when Danny pulled him out and Danny set him off, he flew in the last furlong and a half. And what I liked about him the last day at Leopardstown is actually he settled really, really well for Paul. and he looked he looked a lot easier ride. So again, he's a horse that's settling down, you know, from his first run to his second run. Huge difference in the way the horse raced and went through his races. And again, he jumped great. And I spoke to his owners, Brian True, after the race, and they're very excited about him. Again, he's a nice, fine, big horse. Probably doesn't hit the ground like Copic de Boers does. But again, he's another horse that I suppose they'd be a little bit mindful of the ground with him. But the way, again, when Paul pulled him out after the second last, just the daylight that he put between him and the other horses was extraordinary. He's a very fast jumper too as well. He gets low, he's fast, he's quick.
He's a Rolls Royce, isn't he, Daryl? I mean,
yeah,
I was just...
The two of them are really exciting horses. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind riding any of them.
I have to say, it's Final Demand, though. You mentioned at Limerick, I just thought, look, he settled like a lamb in the box seat the whole way around. You mentioned his jumping, but the way he cruised up turning in, and people were talking Albert Bartlett. It'd be a big ask, would it not, to go into, you know, the hustle and bustle of an Albert Bartlett on your third start, especially when you have the class that he has. Will he shut it down after the race that he wasn't even thinking about Albert Bartlett? So it looks like the Turners for Final Demand. It looks like the Supreme for Copic de Boer. And I wouldn't typically be a man for doubles or even, I suppose, taking horses, young horses at sharp prices in novice herds at the Cheltenham Festival. I have to be honest, Daryl. But these two, to me, I wouldn't put anyone off the double.
I think they're the best that we've seen so far, and especially after the weekend's performances, for sure, they've got to be right up there. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, I think if you asked 98% of the jockeys that are riding at the moment, would they like to be on them two horses? And for sure, I can guarantee you 98% of them, or nearly 100% of them, would say they'd definitely 100% they'd like to ride them. So they're two extraordinary horses, and like I say, this is the start of their career. But I tell you one thing, if you were an owner or whatever, you'd be fairly dreaming of them when the two of them go over fences, because I generally think chasing is going to be the make of them, but they're going to pick up a hell of a lot of races before they go chasing.
Alaho-esque, the way he travelled into the straights at Final Demand. A big fan, Daryl, and 12-1. Absolutely delighted to have that in the team sheet last week, and I think he's going to take the world of beating in the Turners. 5 stars for me. Right, Majborough, talk to me. I suppose the Arkle Chase Sergino sets the standard in the UK. Majborough looks a match between the 5-year-olds now. You've given him 4 stars. How impressed, Daryl?
I was impressed with him. I think... And actually, looking back on reflection of it, the 4 stars, really what I knocked him for, what really was the sort of the jumping when Mark was trying to get him to come back and pop. But actually, when I went back and watched the race again, the highlights of it, do you know what? That race will actually stand him in really good stead going forward. Look, he's a very immature horse. He's very lightly raced as well. So you got to remember that. But Leopardstown are massive big fences. They're big fences. They take an awful lot of jumping. They're not like some of the English fences over here where you can get through them. They're a bit smaller and you can get through them. Leopardstown, you have to jump and you don't get away with it. And he hit 3 fences down the back straight. He hit them quite hard. Now I don't think he ever looked like falling, but he kind of lost his feet at the back of one of maybe the 4 last. He kind of lost his feet, but he got him back quickly. And I actually think, mentally for the horse, I think that race will actually do him the power of good and the world of good. He was keen enough with Mark Walsh for the first 5-6 furlongs of that race anyway as well. So, you know, he's an enthusiastic horse. Again, I think with the more racing that he gets, he'll be better. He's a fine big individual, and again, when to hit them fences as hard as you did, you could be vulnerable after the second last, especially coming up the hill at Leopardstown. You could be vulnerable, but again, when Mark gave him an inch of rain, he just took off, and Mark says he was very comfortable that whenever he pulled him up, he wouldn't have blown a candle out. So the performance was very good. So it was. It's
not too often you see Mark Walsh without cover, but he seemed to be pretty happy to just let him roll along. I mean, he kind of took himself to the front, didn't he? But his jump at was it the last ditch? Was
amazing, and that's the thing you got to, and that's why I think the more the race went along, actually when Mark gave him a squeeze at one, he put down, and the next one he went out and he hit it hard. But actually, when Mark really grabbed hold of the horse and really said, right, got the bit up in his mouth and asked him for. He obviously learned. He's obviously a quick thinker, and he learned very, very quick, because the same stride that he put down with Mark 2 fences earlier, he asked him for the same stride at 3 out the last ditch, and he absolutely winged it. He took off, and the jump at the second last was very good, very fast, very neat, and he's a quick learner. And
he's going to learn, isn't he? He's going to learn. And Daryl, I think the thing, I'm not sure if it's the County Carlow bias here, but I texted a mate after the race, a big Sergino fan. I said it's not Majborough that needs to be worried about Sergina. It's Sergino that needs to be worried about Majborough. Look, I think it's going to be it's going to be probably the match of the week in terms of the novice chase department. It's set up for an absolute cracker. I mean, 5-year-olds going into the race, Daryl, at the weekend. I know Majborough's getting £2, but 5-year-olds, I think, were not from 7 at the Dublin Racing Festival. You're going back a long time. Was it 2000, the millennium, 25 years. Actually, the race itself, the Irish Arkle, since we last saw a 5-year-old winner of the race. So what he done was incredible, considering, as you said, the mistakes that he did make, but he learned from them, surely.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's going to be a great race. It's a fascinating race. I remember watching Sergino when he first schooled over fences. He was electric. He was very quick and neat, and again, he's a very quick horse and a very neat horse as well. So look, the only thing we can do is we can pray to God that the two of them line up at Cheltenham in March, and they take each other on, because there's a lot can happen between now and then, and just you're always hoping when the horses get when the screws get turned for these horses, their final preps going to the Cheltenham Festival, they can pick up a niggle here and a niggle there, but the horses seem to come out with the races really well. And is Sergino entered the weekend, by the way? I think I haven't had a chance to look at the weekend, but I actually think I heard that Sergino might be entered up for the weekend somewhere at Newbury. Is that a possibility?
Set up for a very big rating, isn't he, heading to Cheltenham if he takes on Edward Stone and Cohen Open Company before even heading to the novice feature at the festival. He's entered in the game spirit. And look, put it on ice for a moment, Daryl, because we're going to continue on with the review. I have a little quick fire round in a couple of moments' time where I want one-word answers. You maybe can give a brief explanation, but I'm going to have to ask you to get off the fence in a couple of moments on that Arkle picture. Right, talk to me. Hello, neighbour. In the juvenile hurdle, does he have a lot to find, do you think, with the British juveniles? To me, they look the standout, but you given him a 4-star rating as well. You must have been somewhat impressed. I was impressed with him because, and again, from his first run to his second run, and I always look at the first run to the second run, he done an awful lot wrong on his first run with Keith Donoghue when he ran. He was keen, he was a little bit deliberate at some of his hurdles, and he just didn't look an easy ride on his first ride for Keith Donoghue that day, even though Keith got down to do 10 stone 13 on him that day. And I was impressed the way he actually went through. He had a hood on him the weekend, and he went through the race an awful lot better, and he came there cruising going down to the last, and he picked up, to be fair, he picked up well enough to put the race to bed. He beat another one of Williams' other horse, Lady Vega Allen, I think it was, how you pronounce her name, and she was getting £7 off him. So it was a good performance, but I think the British definitely have the standout James Owen and Nicky Henderson. I think they, at this moment in time, I think they have definitely got the standout juveniles at the moment. Yeah, I think so. We'll touch on that later on the show as well, in terms of which way you'd lean between the two British runners in the Triumph at the moment, and that's in that shake-up. Right, Ballyburn, Daryl. Have to say, he's not impressing me. I know he got the job done. I know he showed a good attitude, to be fair, from the back of the last. I've given him 3.5 stars simply because, and you can tell me what you think here, people have crabbed his jumping. It's not that he's not able to jump. He makes a good shape over a fence, but he never seems to me like he's landing running. And I just feel as though, obviously, Croke Park's a very, very good jumper, but he's getting out jumped. And if you're going to Cheltenham against the likes of, Dancing City, Lecky Watson, I think, is a big each-way player in a Brown advisory. I just thought Ballyburn, he is still that little bit keen early in his races. Off the back of the last, did Ballyburn do anything that Dancing City or Lecky Watson wouldn't have done? I think he's outstayed Croke Park, because if you look at Croke Park, he's jumped the last, he's landed in front, and he actually hasn't stayed galloping to the line the same way as Ballyburn has. So for me, I just think Ballyburn could still be vulnerable, and he's a very short price to win in March, I think.
He is short for sure. He got the job done the weekend. Like I say, I think in Pair and Pass, he definitely underperformed. Croke Park, we're probably not giving that horse the credit that he deserves, actually, because he's won a Grade 1 at Fairyhouse already, hasn't he? And with Sam Ewing. And Croke Park's one of those horses there that keeps going under the radar. But, you know, he's serving his connections well. And I actually thought he actually ran really well, actually, the weekend. I was impressed with him. I thought he got down, he got dirty, he jumped well, he was up there for a long, long way. And I thought that actually was a really, really good performance. And I think we're going to see this horse turn into a really, really good horse, actually, if I'm being honest with you. So I was happy with Croke Park with the performance that he put in. Ballyburn, brilliant hurdler, great hurdler. If I was to say, but going chasing, has he improved for going chasing? At this moment in time, I'd say no. That's my. He jumps well. He's not flashy for sure. That's one thing. He's not flashy, but like I say, he gets the job done. He jumps him well enough. Not very, very fast, like a real good chaser does. He prefers just to go in and pop and get from A to B. And that'll probably serve him in really good stead when he steps up again and trip as well. So I think there's more improvement to come when he steps up again and trip, when he settles down a little bit more. But he'd be definitely a horse that I wouldn't be getting too excited at a really, really short price, as in Ante-Post or anything like that, backing him for the Cheltenham Festival. But again, I still wouldn't mind riding him, put it that way. But he's... Yeah,
I'll put it to you like this, Daryl.
Improved them. Put it that way. I don't think chasing has improved them 10, 15 pounds.
I'll put it to you like this, right? Croke Park's jumped the last marginally in front of Ballyburn. If Lecky Watson, Dancing City and Ballyburn jumped the last as one together at Leopardstown, who makes it to the line first? I was absolutely shocked that Croke Park jumped the last before Ballyburn did, to be honest. And I thought from the second last to the last, I was expecting Ballyburn to really open up maybe and put a couple of lengths between himself and Croke Park, and he didn't do that. So yeah, I wasn't overly impressed. And as I said, he did show good attitude, but 3.5 stars for me. Galloping the Champ, right? 16 starts now over fences. Where do we start, Daryl? It was another fantastic performance from Galloping the Champ. Was it his 11th Grade 1 victory at the weekend? What was the atmosphere like? I wasn't there on the day. I was in the booth myself, Daryl, working both days. What was the atmosphere like?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, it's, you know, that's the one thing that I absolutely love about the Irish racing, and in particular this festival. It's growing every year on year. It's getting better and better, and the English crowds coming over for it. Huge crowd there, and whenever he crossed the line, I took a video of him. Everyone was singing "Ole, ole, ole, ole," and I promise you, it literally, the hair stood up in the back of my neck. It was incredible to be there, and then to go back to the winners' enclosure. There were 10 deep going in there. Everyone was wanting a bit of him, and he's some horse, like, and you know, for Paul Townend to ride him, he's really got to know him. The horse loves going forward. He loves making a test, and you know, Fact of File came there, loom, and just the way he really put the race to bed after the last, and to be fair, I think probably the crowd that was there, they absolutely roared him. It was like a home game for him, and I'd say Paul sitting on him, I'd say he felt like as if he grew two hands on top of him, and I'd say just the crowd there, the horse knew the crowd was there for him, and it was just
Paul's comments afterwards, Daryl. Paul's comments afterwards was he's so simple to ride. Obviously, he jumps, he gallops, he stayed. Everything that a Gold Cup, you know, horse should do. And I suppose he's bidding to become only the 5th horse now, Daryl, to win 3 Gold Cups, joining Best Mate, Arkle, Cottage Rake, that was long before my time, or Golden Miller. So, like, it's incredible, really. Like, and he's a real legacy horse now, to be fair. Stay tuned to later on in the show, because I have views in terms of the race itself. The question I'd ask is an interesting stat here, right? In terms of the Gold Cup, Daryl, only 2 of the last 23 winners of the Cheltenham Gold Cup had 14 plus runs over fences. The only thing I would say about Galopin Des Champs is mileage. He does have mileage in the legs. Might that catch him out?
No, definitely not this year, because I think he's come Gold Cup horses. I just think he's far superior to anything that's lining up in the Gold Cup. I mean, his main danger, Factor File, I thought he was given a great ride actually by Mark Walsh the weekend. He dropped them right in off him and just made sure the horse settled, and he made sure that he wanted to have one go at Galopin Des Champs, and he just turned it on, jumping the last, and he put it through. Factor File will probably come back in trip, but they realise they can't beat him. But I just think he's far superior to any other horse, any other stayer in this division at the moment. And no, I generally believe that there's nothing good enough to beat him this year. Maybe next year time might catch up with him, but not this year.
Yeah, so we're heading for our very first ad break in a couple of moments' time. But quick fire questions, Daryl, before we come back. And
here we go. This could be interesting.
This will be interesting. Off the fence time, Daryl. Right, into the hot seat. Getting £7, okay? Which mare, Lossiemouth or Brighter Days Ahead, would you rather take on Constitution Hill with in a champion hurdle, and why?
Brighter Days Ahead, I would ride Brighter Days Ahead, because Lossiemouth's tried it, done it, and she failed at Kempton. So I try something different. There's no point in riding her. So I definitely try something different on Brighter Days Ahead.
The 4 championship races, okay? Obviously, Galopin Des Champs for the Gold Cup is favoured. Constitution Hill favoured for the champion hurdle. John Bond favoured for the champion chase, and Tihupu favoured for the stairs. Which do you think is the most solid this year, and which do you think might be the most vulnerable out of those 4 championship favourites?
John Bond, I think, is definitely a plus. I think he's looked very, very good this year. Nico's ridden horse extremely well this year. John Bond's definitely a plus. Galopin Des Champs. I think the rest of them are all really solid. So I'm going to go Tihupu. I know he won it last year, but Home by the Lee, I've been really, really impressed with his performances this year. He was 3rd behind him last year. I think we're going to see a better performance for him. So I think he's got to go to the stairs with a massive chance. So I'm going to have a negative for Tihupu.
Of the Willie Mullins novice pair, I think we asked you this in the first segment, Kopek de Boer or Final Demand? If you had to take one home with you, who would it be?
Can I not take both of them home?
I personally go Final Demand. I think he's an absolute Rolls Royce. Go on, who would you go with?
Well, I'll go. If you're going to say him, I'll say Kopek de Boers.
Okay, the big question. Arkle Chase, Sir Gino or Majborough? Who wins it?
Oh, God. Majborough. Look, I've got to go. I mean, I thought he was really, really good. Triumph Turtle winner. I thought he was very good. I'm going to stick with him. Majborough
for me as well. Fact to file. What's the right race for him at this stage? The Gold Cup or the Ryanair? Where would you go?
Well, he'll win the Ryanair if he turns up in the Ryanair. He's not going to win a Gold Cup, and an extra 2.5 furlongs up that Cheltenham Hill. He's not going to stay that, so they'll go Ryanair.
Fascinating. Right, we're off to our first ad break, and when we come back, it's all things tracker horses and big race preview.
From Dundalk to Longchamp, from the Galway races to the Breeders' Cup, Shamrock Thoroughbreds have taken owners all over the world.
Tiger Bell in front, holds them. Late on the scene is Dawn Charger storming home, but Tiger Bell in front and won.
Coming through in the centre, Laugh a Minute with a strong challenge, and it's Laugh a Minute who goes on in the closing stages to win by a length and a half. Laugh a Minute from Fiscal Roots.
But it's Harry's Bar repelling the late challenge of the stable companion Dream today, and Harry's Bar makes it 6-course wins.
Check out shamrockthoroughbreds.com or click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description to learn more about new racehorse ownership opportunities.
Yes, you can check, of course, shamrockthoroughbreds.com out. They're absolutely frying it. Stephen Thorne every Wednesday and Friday up in Dundalk. And as mentioned, in the top 3 in terms of trainers for winners, of course, at Dundalk at the moment on the all-weather. Right, Red Mills Day. Don't forget, you can still get your tickets Saturday the 15th of February. And head over to the Gowran Park website. Really looking forward to the day. And we could have some big names down there, actually, Saturday week in Gowran Park. Really looking forward to the day. And, of course, the Champ.ie podcast doing the morning line before racing, and we really look forward to the day once again down in the southeast. Viewer question. Okay, so we have this one I want to throw into the mix here. And it comes from Jimmy Hidalgo Lopez, good follower of the show. And we did say earlier on the show that the British Juveniles look a pretty good crop. Can East India Doc beat Lalamba? I'm torn with this question. When looking at both horses, East India Doc looks more impressive. I personally think East India Doc looks an absolute weapon, and the time backs it up.
East India Doc at Cheltenham was brilliant, as in the fact that if you look at the ground that day at Cheltenham was soft enough, and if you look at his action, he's got a really fast flow in action. So, and he's very, very quick from A to B. Doesn't spend any time in the air. Is a real natural flicky hurdle that goes through the hurdles. And the way he put that race to bed was very, very impressive. I think he's been there, done that at Cheltenham, bought the T-shirt. That stands him out in really, really good stead. Lalumba is a horse that's been working really. Is that how you pronounce it? Lalumba?
Yeah, Lalumba, yeah. Long term, he looks a good prospect, doesn't he? But I mean,
he looks a real good prospect. And I was in Nicky Henderson's when he was working, and he was a standout workhorse, to be fair to him. He looked really, really good. At Kempton today, he won again. Wasn't probably the most the flashiest or the best race, but the way he went around Kempton the other day, Kempton good ground, fast track. He was always in his comfort zone. Jumped really well, actually. Jumped big. Could probably get a little bit lower at some of his hurdles, but Sergino was the same when he ran last year around Kempton there as well. And the thing about Lalumba was he wasn't 100% tuned up for that race. He was probably 80, 85%. And that's what Nicky's so good at. He's very, very good at bringing horses through nice and quietly and improving with every run. So I would expect Lalumba to improve an awful lot from Kempton. Got the ring rustiness out of him. And it's going to be a great race. I think the English definitely have... I think the English definitely have the upper hand over the juvenile department at the moment. But I think if I was to ride one at the moment, I think long term, I think Lalumba will be a better horse than James Owen's horse. But I think for the Triumph Hurdle, I just love the way James Owen horses is. Travels very quick through from the hurdle from A to B, doesn't lose any ground. And I know for a fact he won on soft ground the other day, but I know for a fact he'll be better on better ground as well.
Patrick Mullins was interviewed on, I think it was at the races today, or Sky Sports Racing as it's called now, and was asked the question about galloping the Champs jumping, and he mentioned it's like PlayStation. You just press X and the horse jumps the hurdle or the flight. Obviously, the fence and galloping the Champs case, that's almost what it's like with East India Doc. I mean, he's an absolute natural, and it's how much you weight the Cheltenham form as well, the course form. He's won on the new course. He clearly has the class. He clearly stays. And what he does in the back of the last, I have to say, Daryl, he's been the one juvenile that's really blown me away. And the times are really, they're really stacking up. Stencil was my Triumph Hurdle pick earlier on in the season on this series. They're talking about him for a Boodles. He's a good horse, and he's absolutely battered him. He's absolutely battered him. So, there we are. Hope we've helped you, Hidalgo and Hidalgo Lopez. The next section of the show is, of course, the most important. It is the, Ante-Post selections for episode number 8. In association, of course, this series with Gowran Park Boylesports, EJ Menswear down in Sligo, and Shamrock Thoroughbreds as well, of course. A big shout out to Stephen in fantastic form at the moment. So we're going to come back with our Ante-Post selections. Make sure as well to update your portfolio. The big prize on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival is, of course, with a trip to the Boylesports Irish Grand National, which is, of course, on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival. We will be announcing the winners, so continue to update your portfolio down below. Yes, so hello, Barry Doyle from the Champ.ie podcast, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast. I'm here with my co-host, David Burns, and we're here in Sligo Town, David, in EJ Menswear and EJMenswear.com. Fantastic season ahead. EJ has kindly partnered up with us to be the men's fashion partner with Champ.ie for the season. And David, we're suited and booted. You're looking sharp.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. And this fantastic bundle and this outfit we're wearing is costing $2.99. It sets you up beautifully for the racing season ahead, which includes Leopardstown at Christmas, Thyesda's Day at Gowran Park, and of course, if you want to go even bigger, you can get togged out for the Cheltenham and Aintree festivals later on in the season.
Absolutely, and of course, check out the Champ.ie podcast right throughout the season, Mondays and Thursdays, and look at the offer. The tailored bundle for the racing season, $2.99, blazer, shirt, chino, socks and shoes. What's not to like, lads? Check out ejmenswear.com to find out all the racing offers. Not too bad, is it, Daryl, for $2.99? Worth the trip to Sligo?
I tell you one thing, I wouldn't mind popping up there myself. I could do with a few blazers and shirts and trousers for my new career now. So I did. So I wouldn't mind there popping up there myself to him.
I didn't tell EJ. Obviously, we're into the spring now, but I was very disappointed. They had a fantastic offer for the, of course, the winter bundle as well, which we seem to miss out on. We didn't actually get that as part of the package. But EJ, if you're listening, next winter, we want the full kit out, the winter bundle, because it would have been very handy for Thyesda's Day. But we were, I suppose, dressed very much for the spring in the tailor bundle. And we look forward to, I suppose, being kitted out down at Red Mills Day as well. But the guy's absolutely top class, fellas. If there's any men watching getting married as well, I know David Burns, the co-host, they get fully kitted out, of course, for his brother's wedding. And very, very top quality suits down in Sligo.
Tell EJ I'll be popping up to see him, so I will be.
I will.
Do I get any discounts after if I pop up to see him?
Well, it's worth the trip because the boys actually came up from Wexford, Daryl. The wedding party did go up from Wexford and got fully kitted out, and I think they got into the VIP lounge. I think there's been plenty of celebrities, Daryl. So we'll hit up EJ and tell him that the Grand National winning jockey wants to get suited
to see him.
Absolutely, Daryl. Right, okay. When you sent me this voice message last night, I couldn't have agreed anymore. I was a big fan of this horse for a Gold Cup, but talk to us. Your Ante-Post selection.
Fact to file, yes. I think they know now he's not going to beat Galloping the Champ. They probably realise he's not a real stayer to either. And I think realistically, the right race to come back for is the Ryanair. I think he's perfectly suited by that. Protector Act is obviously in that race as well, and he'll go a gallop as well. So I'm really looking forward to. He won the John Durkin over 2 mile 3.5 as well, and I think this horse has got a lot of pace. He's got a good turn of foot. He's a fine big horse, and I think it's the right route to come back for the Ryanair. So I'd be very, very happy with him in the Ryanair.
I was tempted at the start of the series. I mean, look, I was a massive fan of this horse. I thought he was going to be a Gold Cup contender, but I think based on his last 2 runs, I'm not sure 3 mile 2 is exactly what he wants. So I couldn't agree with you more. Look, 9-4 boosted out from 6-4 with our, of course, sponsors Boylesports. And I suppose if fact to file, Daryl, is going for the Ryanair chase, the big question is, who does Mark Walsh ride? And look, I will say this, Daryl, just before I put this selection in, right? I'm not typically a man for each way when it comes to Ante-Post, but I'm advising split the stake, back this horse each way, because I personally think this is, to me, it looks the filthiest each way bet at this stage of the festival. And target trainer, based in just outside Loughlin Bridge in County Carlow, Emmett Mullins trains a horse called Corbett's Cross, and this horse. It's all been about one day here, Daryl, right? So obviously ran at Wexford at his first start of the season, ran at Kempton, of course, in the King George as well. But it's all been about one day for Corbett's Cross. It's the Cheltenham Festival Gold Cup. He won, of course, last year, the National Hunt Chase. Look at his performance in that race last year. Embassy Gardens, of course, was only a length down at the last against the Galloping the Champ at Leopardstown at the weekend. He's been absolutely battered by Corbett's Cross at Cheltenham last season by 17 lengths. I love the way he came up the hill. Looking, I suppose, at the shape of the race, Daryl, this is why I think it's a good each way bet. Galloping the Champ, obviously, if he goes out and puts in his performance, he's the horse to beat and he will win. But it's the mileage thing. He's going to be having his 17th run over fences in the Gold Cup. He's been to the well twice now already this season. If he does misfire, I think the horse to be with is Corbett's Cross each way. Obviously, Jerry Colomb, it's reported today he won't go for the race. He's had a setback. You look at the second favourite, you've mentioned Fact to File. I don't think he'll go to the race. I think he'll go to the Ryanair Chase. And then you're down on the likes of Grange Clare West, who is 16 to 1. I'd say you could add a 0 to that based on his form in terms of backing up performances. I just think Corbett's Cross, it's all been about one day. His jumping, when it had to be right last season, it was right. I'm backing this horse each way, 22 to 1 there. Would you put me off it?
I surely wouldn't, because like I say, his form around Cheltenham, big galloping tracks is second to none. This is Emmett Mullins' look, there's no finer trainer to have a horse ready for a young trainer to have a horse ready, peaking at the right time. Emmett Mullins, there's no better man. You see me had a double at Leopardstown the weekend as well, and this horse was going around Kempton, totally different track. He was out of his comfort zone the whole way around. The ground was goodish ground, and he struggled around Kempton. But you know what Kempton will do? It'll sharpen him up an awful lot for Cheltenham, and he looks like a big staying type of horse. And 22 to 1, I didn't realise he was that priced, but I tell you one thing, you'd be definitely having a little bit of 22 to 1. I think that's a cracking shout.
Daryl, before we wrap up the show, a couple of horses to ask you about. Obviously, from a Simon Minear and Isaac Swade perspective going forward. El Fabiolo came down early, I suppose. This year, are you confident there's a big day in him this year after the weekend?
Yeah, he was very disappointing, I have to admit, because obviously he's been documented there. He's had a few issues at the start of the year, and that's why we haven't seen him out until now. And going forward, we really needed a big run into him the weekend, more or less just to tell us whether to go down the champion route or whether to go to Ryanair. And it was disappointing for him to come down at the second, because we don't really know where we're going to go with him now, because he's come out a little bit stiff and sore. Potentially he was going to go to Gowran in a couple of weeks' time, but whether that might be a little bit too soon for him or not. But and then I suppose you're probably getting a bit too close to Cheltenham then after that. So he could end up going to Cheltenham with actually no runs underneath his belt, because he only went for 2.5 furlongs the other day. So it's going to be a very difficult decision now where we're going to go with him or what we're going to do with him. So, but for sure, he's got at least Aintree, Punchestown, them sort of festivals. We're going to have a very, very fresh horse, and we're going to hopefully have a very good horse. And we've always regarded him as being a very, very good horse. And please God, and I hope for the horse as well, that he gets to show and he gets to shine on the big day this year.
Jasmine Defoe, a rating of 137. Would you be looking at potentially handicaps at this stage, or do you think he'll stick to the graded company for the minute?
Sure, look at off that sort of mark, he's going to be very well handicapped whenever he just spruces up his jumping a little bit more. It was a better performance the other day from Jasmine Defoe, but of that sort of a rating, a grade 1, won the champion bumper last year, and for sure we always thought he was going to be a really good. Disappointing actually, because in his point-to-point he actually jumped well enough that he won his point-to-point, and so I don't really know why he's been as deliberate as what he's been, but I thought he was a better, bar one jump the second hurdle down the back straight the other day at Leopardstown. I thought he jumped well on the whole for JJ, but off that sort of mark, you don't really want to be throwing yourself into grade 1 company now. I suppose maybe if you were going to go at Aintree or something like that, but I definitely think he's a horse that definitely to follow over the handicap routes anyway, until hopefully, please God, he'll jump himself up into grade 1 company somewhere down along the line.
Young horse for the team to look forward to, maybe that we haven't seen thus far, maybe in the spring?
I think Crack is a horse that we have. Stuart Crawford's that's done really well for us. He's had a couple of place horses at Leopardstown. First time at Leopardstown, he done a few things wrong that day, and I thought that was a good run from him. And he backed it up on his last run as well. So Crack is definitely a horse that I would definitely keep on the right side of. I think he can go and win his maiden potentially on his next run, and see where we end up with him then.
Cheltenham's on the horizon. Just a couple of preview nights that we are doing with Champ.ie, and one, of course, in the Red Line in Bagnallstown. That is coming up, of course, on the 28th of February. And one in Rossgrey as well, and Allison's promises to be a good night. And you can get your tickets, full details up on screens. Daryl, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge Show. And I know that was it. I know that was the third time you were on the show, but maybe this time next year we'll get you back for an episode again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for your time. And all I can say to you is up Wexford.
Up Wexford. I'll see you at EJ Menswear very soon, Barry.